Hello, everyone. So my name is Matt Campion, and today I'm here to talk to you about the importance of mental health. And I'm also here to talk to you about the day that I thought I was going to die. And at the end of this, there's something that I need to say to somebody. Now, I want to do a little experiment, if that's okay with you. I'd like to ask you, if you've struggled with your mental health in the last 24 hours, could you please raise your hand? I'm talking about stress, anxiety, depression, panic. How about in the last week? The last month? The last year? Brilliant, thank you. You can put your hands down now. I think the point I'm trying to make is that I think it's really important to create safe spaces like this where we can show our vulnerabilities. And I think for me, one of the things I've always struggled with is showing that vulnerability. Now I'm looking around at you in the audience, and like Jake said, I think some of you recognize me, don't you? Yeah, that's right. I'm Stephen Henwood from the iconic TV drama Soldier, Soldier. All right. Not that funny. So, as a child, I was lucky enough to be a part of a thing called the ITV Junior Television Workshop. The workshop was a brilliant place for me to grow up in. It was a place that I used to go every week after school at Central Television Studios in Birmingham, where I was taught how to act in theatre, for film, and for television. And by the time I finished at the workshop, by the time I was 20 years old, I was lucky enough to have appeared in 40 different TV shows. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is not to show off whoever woohooed. The reason why I'm telling you that is because I think being in the workshop taught me to create a mask for myself. It taught me how to pretend, to create that pretense. Because the truth was, in my childhood, things were very different back at home. I grew up with a dad who was an alcoholic and an addict and had really struggled with his mental health. And when I was 10 years old, this is very difficult for me to say, but I came home to find him having attempted suicide. I was 10 years old in this picture, so just imagine what I was like. I then spent my teen years never knowing what that uncertainty would bring whenever I went home, whether he'd be drunk, whether he'd be hurt, whether he'd be dead. And in fact, in my teen years, I came home and found him having attempted suicide twice more. Now, the thing is, that was very traumatic for me as a kid. And the thing about trauma is that I think we all bury trauma. We put it in nice, neat little boxes and try and hide it away. And I think being part of the ITV workshop, doing that acting was something that really helped me do that, was put on that mask that I talked about before. So I was very angry with my dad, very angry. And actually, the trauma, when you think about it, the thing that I've realized as I've got older is that actually trauma eventually has to release itself. And the anger that I had for my dad, I remember I used to say to myself, I am never going to be like this guy. Whatever I do, I'm never going to fail. I'm going to be a success. I'm going to tick all those life boxes. I'm going to have a good career. I'm going to have a good family. I'm not going to be like him. So moving into my adult life, I went to university. I then started a career in television behind the scenes, which I'm sure you'll all agree is a great loss to the acting community. By the time I was 23, I was pushing myself really hard. I became a TV director at the age of 23. By the time I was 26, I became an exec producer. I met a woman, a brilliant woman. I got married. I had 2 beautiful kids. At the age of 30, I set up my own production company called Spirit Media. I was pushing hard to be the success that he wasn't. In 2016, that all changed. I got approached by the NHS right here in Brighton and Hove, along with the YMCA, to create a campaign challenging the stigma surrounding mental health in young people. And at the time, I'd been directing the last Rizzle Kicks music video, another band that were from Brighton and Hove. And Jordan, one half of Rizzle Kicks, had sent me some solo music, asking me whether I'd consider it for a TV project I was working on. And I came across this track called Whole. And I started listening to it, and it really struck a chord with me. Here was this young guy that was openly talking about his struggles with mental health, his deepest, darkest secrets. So I asked the NHS, have you ever considered using music and creating a music video to connect with young people? Because, alternatively, the other option was to put pamphlets in GP surgeries, which we all know a young person is not going to connect with. And thankfully, for me, they agreed to do it. So we had to come up with a creative and a campaign to surround the project. Now, I got to the day before the pitch, and a bit like today's talk, left everything to the last minute, which doesn't bear well for your mental health. And the night before, I decided to listen to that track over and over again. I must have listened to it to maybe 100, 200 times. And very early the next morning, I woke up and I had this dream. I had this dream that could we ask people to draw a circle on their hands and share their mental health struggles online to challenge the stigma surrounding mental health? So I texted Jordan really early in the morning. I said, Jordan, do me a favor, mate. Draw a circle on your hand, take a picture of it and send it back to me. And he sent me this. Now, the circle on Jordan's hand isn't perfect. But the circle is something that evokes community and unity. It's something that is cyclical, the circle of life. Things will always get better, things will change. And ultimately, the circle represents, if you're feeling broken, you are still whole. So we came up with a hashtag, I am whole. And on World Mental Health Day, which was the 10th of October, 2016, we launched the campaign. We launched the music video, and we launched the campaign film, and within 2 hours, something unbelievable started to happen. We were getting thousands and thousands of pictures being uploaded online with people using the hashtag I am whole and talking about their own mental health struggles. Celebrities started joining us. Ed Sheeran, James Corden. It was honestly incredible. By 2 p.m., we were mentioned in the Houses of Parliament. And by the end of the day, we'd gone from being the small news item in the morning to being the big news item at the end of the day. We'd reached over 120 million people. Now, the thing that people didn't know about me at the time of the campaign is that 2 weeks before the campaign launched, I had a moment where I thought I was going to die. I was at work, I was finishing an edit, I was feeling sweaty, I was short of breath, I was spinning out. I decided to go home from London back to Hove to go and see the doctor. And as I was walking to the train station, the world completely flipped on me. I couldn't breathe. My chest was absolutely bursting through my heart. As far as I was concerned, I was having a heart attack. I would never see my wife and kids again. It was honestly a very, very scary moment. So the next thing you know, I was in an ambulance and I was taken to hospital. And here's me in hospital. They did my bloods, they did an ECG test, and it came back that I was fine. And I was told that actually I just had my very first panic attack. Now, the timing of this wasn't a coincidence. Because actually, I think creatively, to sort of get the campaign to a shape where I wanted it to be, I had to delve deep back into my life and think about all those dark times from my childhood. And also I was having conversations with other people about their mental health struggles. So I don't think it's any coincidence that, this happened. And I think by this panic attack happening, what I'd done was released that trauma that I'd buried and put in a neat little box when I was that child back in the 80s. Now, the panic attacks opened a floodgate, and for the next 18 months, I kept having more and more panic attacks. Very, very, very scary. And if anyone in the room ever suffers from panic attacks, I completely feel your pain. So, back at work. The business is going from strength to strength. We're winning more TV projects. I Am Whole has now taken a life of its own. And we're now heading towards the biggest project for our business that we'd ever achieved. We were going to put on a music concert at the Roundhouse in London called Music for Mental Health. starring some of the UK's biggest music artists. Now, at the time, I hadn't told anyone what was going on, not openly anyway. And I was worried, really worried, that people right at the top of my industry wouldn't trust me to deliver this big project or any of the other projects that I was doing if I was struggling with mentally, you know. So I decided not to tell anyone about it. But then something changed. We decided to do this podcast called The Whole Truth. And The Whole Truth is about people, celebrities, authors, people of influence that have mental health struggles, to come on this show, hosted by Jordan, where they talk openly and honestly about their mental health struggles. And I thought to myself, would I be a hypocrite if I was not able to talk about my own mental health struggles, and I'm here running this campaign? So I decided to do the first episode, which I did. And you know what? The world didn't cave in on me. In fact, some of the biggest names in the industry reached out to me and said how inspired they were and shared their own mental health stories with me. I couldn't believe it. Now, the point of this talk is to give you guys a bit of a takeaway, and I wish I could tell you that there was one easy fix when it comes to dealing with mental health struggles. But unfortunately, we all know there's not. And there's a few cliches, but I want to tell you a few of the things that do work for me. I felt like caffeine, was always something that was triggering my panic attacks, so I cut that out of my diet. I tried to cut back a bit on the old booze because I think, you know, we all use that in times of stress as a coping mechanism. Sleep is one of the big things that has really changed for me. I now try and get, whenever I can, 8 hours a night. And I tell you something, it makes a huge difference. Mindfulness. I've started using apps, breathing techniques, trying to be present. It really, really does make a difference. But if there's one thing I could say to you all today that has made the biggest difference, and even if there's just one person in this room that hears this, I want you to really, really hear it. Speak to someone. Speak to a professional. Speak to a family member. Speak to a friend. Speak to a stranger. I cannot tell you how that changed my life when I spoke to someone. Now, before I finish, I just want to show you a short film to show you what happens when people come together and challenge stigma.
Starting to be spoken about more regularly. One campaign chose to link it with music.
Ready? I'd come across the track Hole and it just started really striking a chord.
I didn't realise I was writing a song about my own depression until I'd finished. Matt just so happened to have been asked
to develop a campaign for the NHS and the YMCA.
battling stigma surrounding mental health in young people. And then he hits me up going, listen.
Draw a circle on your hand and take a picture of it. Before we knew it, we were shooting a music video, and then on World Mental Health Day, we launched it. We were trending #1 on social media. We were mentioned in the House of Parliament, headline news by the end of the day. We reached 120 million people worldwide. Months afterwards, we were getting pictures from every continent around the world. More celebrities were joining us. It's only taken on life of its own. This year, we asked ourselves, how do we go bigger?
And that's when it landed. Music is the key. Music for mental health.
We partnered with 3 amazing charities.
Then I was like, who am I get through it? So I'm like, Ella Air, Pro Green, Holy Man. I asked Hussein to do it, Anne Marie, Nothing But Thieves, Louis Berry. And then I asked Ed, and he was like, yeah. And everyone was like, what?
It is one of the first of its kind. I had no idea it was going to be this big.
I think it's just about sharing and getting support from others.
It makes it a lot more easier to talk about.
I feel like music can just connect a lot of people.
This is only the beginning. Step up and make a real change. 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Ed Sheeran!
Thank you. Now, at the beginning, I said there's something that I want to say someone that I want to say something to at the end of my talk. And this is something that I feel only just now I'm able to do. Dad, if you ever watch this, I forgive you. My name's Campion, and I am whole.